welcome to MTV Summer Jams. Wait, that's not MTV Summer Jams, but it is summertime behind us, and we are a Comic Cave podcast. My name is Chris, here with my hetero life mate, Mr.
Russ, man.
And we are here at the Super Happy Incredible Toys Toy Show.
Yep.
Joined by our awesome friend, Mr. Scott Fontenot. Scott, what's going on?
Nothing much. Doing a little bit of sweating, but not too much, and happy to be here.
Introduce yourself, sir, to the people.
Okay, well, my name is Scott Fontenot. Of course, I'm a co-host of the Scary Dad podcast, founder of the Scary Dad Haunted Halloween Show, which is a yearly event we do right around Halloween, and also one of the organizers for the Houston Horror Film Festival out here in Houston.
Man, it sounds like you're a busy person.
Yeah. Between my day job and that, it keeps you pretty busy.
Hey.
So, Scott, we thank you for coming down and being a part of this show at the Toy Show Fair, Super Happy Toy Show.
Here at Saint Arnolds, got to shout them out.
Saint Arnolds Brewery.
Looking over it. All right.
Come on down to Houston, Texas, and have yourself a brew at Saint Arnolds Brewery.
Yep.
Free plug. You know what? They might sponsor us, but we're gonna get right into it. Scott, so you said you help run a Texas Horror Film Festival. Now I have to ask you my first question, sir. When was that founded? Like, when did that come about?
Okay, so this is technically it's our first actual film festival.
Awesome.
Okay.
The concept originally came up back in 2018, by Troy Escamilla and Tony Rodriguez. And I had noticed in 2019 that they were trying to put together an event. So through the Scary Dad podcast, I contacted them and, hey, we have a horror event here also.
Yeah.
How about we work together, do some cross promotions, we come on over, do an interview. So they came over to the interview for the podcast, and we found that we all had the same end goal, which, for years we've been going to Texas Frightmare Weekend. Love Texas Frightmare Weekend in Dallas. Lloyd Cryer's one of the best con runners there is in the business. The guy's incredible. And we wanted to bring that same vibe here to Houston and get our community together. And we both had the same goal, so we said, hey, how about you join up with our show, we'll join up with your show, and we'll see what we can do. So
powers combined.
Yeah. So we went ahead, and of course COVID hit right before we were supposed to have our actual first film festival.
Right.
And so that was just done away with. Okay. So we canceled it, said we were going to come back in 2022. And in October of last year, when things started settling down just a little bit, we got a call from the hotel, and they were like, hey, we need some work. Would you guys mind renting this entire ballroom for this amount of money? And we'll let you guys do an event. So I talked to
that
Tony.
That answers one of my questions. Which ballroom is it?
That was Marriott. Marriott South Houston. Yeah.
Nice.
We're doing the Marriott Ballroom.
Hey.
So Tony called me up and said, hey, what do you think about doing a little one-day show? And I said, that'd be cool. They gave us a big enough room to where at like 30% capacity, we'd still have about 350 people. So we decided to go ahead, try it out, brought in 5 guests, promoted it real quick, and sold out in no time. The event was just incredible. People at that point just wanted to get out and do something so bad. We had no issues with people staying with the guidelines. Everybody was willing to wear a mask and socially distance and everything else. So
right.
Next thing you know, Tony calls me again. Tony always starts this stuff. He said, hey, how about we do an event in January? I was like, all right, let's get with the hotel, see what they'll let us do. So we went ahead and did one in January, increased capacity by just a little bit more. Once again, sold out in no time.
Hey.
Guests were incredibly happy with the turnout. The event just went beautiful. And all of a sudden, we started building a following. People started taking notice, this horror
So this
event
is recent.
Yeah, it started last October.
Whoa.
So after the January event, Tony calls me up and says, hey, some of the agents are calling me, and they want to do something before the June show. I said, well, look, the hotel, small capacity thing, we've been doing that okay, let's try something different. I said, let's do an outside show. It was only February at that time.
Right.
So we're going to do it in March, it's not going to be that hot, let's find a brewery that wants to do one. So we found Fortress Brewery up on the north side of town in Spring.
Okay.
Great group to work with, it's co-owned by one of our vendors. So we decided to do a one-day show, 5 guests total. We had Bob Elmore, we had Tom Matthews from Return of the Living Dead, we had Linnea Quigley, one of the biggest scream queens there is.
Yeah.
And,
So how do you get in contact with them?
That's why I was
you
just
call
about
their
to ask.
agents or something?
Yeah, we call their agents, and through networking and everything, we
Right.
actually, Tom Matthews on the way to the airport last time, he told me, he said, hey, just call me direct next time you want me to come down.
And you guys built up the reputation already at that point. You seem like genuine people, so they're willing to work it.
And like I
That's
said, we
awesome.
had agents calling us saying, hey, would you guys, my client.
No, they was reaching out to you already.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
So
do you guys have I'm sorry, do you have like a website or something as well?
Yeah, we can be found at HoustonHorrorFilmFest.com, and we have the official Houston Horror Film Fest Facebook page,
Nice.
which is amazing, dude. We started off last year planning a 500-person show that never happened, and as of right now, I think the official Facebook page has almost 9,000 followers.
Wow.
And we have the official group for the Houston Horror Film Festival, which is just where we go to discuss stuff. That one's already surpassed 1,000, and just everything has just snowballed. The following we've had, and that Fortune's Brewery show, we had 1,000 people show up that day.
Whoa.
For a one-day show with just 5 guests.
That's awesome.
When was that one?
That was in March. It was March 17th, if I'm not mistaken.
I think COVID might have added to your horror effect, right? And it was like, hey, I'm here for that.
That's one of the things that happened. It was amazing. And so with the June show, all of a sudden, we're expecting a couple thousand people throughout the weekend. We've already outgrown the venue that we have. So we started looking for something for 2022. We've actually already had people contacting us that want to be at the next show.
All right.
So we already have some guests booked for that. We just don't have a date yet. We're trying to pick a venue. What's amazing is, and I know Chris through the con world, because I'm also a staff member of Comic Palooza and stuff. And I've worked for a lot of different shows. Independent film, when it comes to horror fans, is a huge thing. I've been judging film festivals for about 4 years now. I helped judge Texas Frightmare's film festival, and I have a cousin of mine that has a film festival back home in Louisiana.
Nice.
It's in the family.
Yeah. Me and him actually is funny. On YouTube, me and him used to make movies when we were like 11, 12 years old. His dad gave him a VHS camera, and we'd edit it between two VCRs and stuff, and he ended up re-editing these stupid movies we made with like modern graphics, and they're all on YouTube now. It's
I'm gonna have to go
hilarious.
check those out. What's the channel?
Out of the Box.
Out of the Box.
OUTTA.
Out of the Box. Go check him out.
My cousin Mark, he has a Funko Pop channel.
Nice.
But one of the movies we made, I'll never forget, it was so funny. I was in middle school, so I was about 12 or 13 years old. And at that point, the idea of this movie having so many sequels was so absurd. We made a movie called Friday the 13th Part 8. And of course, as you know, there's 10 official sequels, and then there's the remake, and then there's Freddy. So altogether, there's like 12 movies in that whole canon. But yeah, at that time, they were like, there's no way they're going to have a Friday the 13th Part 8. Let's call it that just to be silly. So yeah, that's on YouTube now, and a few other stupid movies that we made. But I've always loved independent film. Independent film is just, and since I've started judging movies, I look at movies in such a different way and everything. I love it. And
so, if you love the independent films, what made you end up wanting to shine a light on the horror side?
Well, I've been a horror fan since I was a kid.
Okay.
I mean, it's been there's some movies that I watched at way too young of an age. My dad died when I was 9. Friday nights, my mom had pretty much I came from a small town.
Gotcha.
And at Wagabag Video, she had told them, when Scott comes in, just let him rent whatever he wants. Don't worry about
rating or anything like that. Nice.
She said the same thing
Cool,
in movie
Mom.
theaters. So, and back then, I used to pick VHS movies by the box art, which is a lost, some companies like Vinegar Syndrome and Scream Factory that do these re-releases in 4K and Blu-ray, they understand the concept of that cover art. They do some incredible stuff. But back in the 80s, it was just amazing. And I would pick these movies just because they look cool, and it just so happened they were mostly horror. So I just started watching. I mean, I watched TCM when I was way too young. And one of the movies which I always talk about on the podcast, because people always ask me, what are the 5 best horror movies? And that's such a hard question to ask, because there's a difference between what I think are the most well-made horror movies, the horror movies that mean the most to me, and the most
different
fun
categories of that.
The one horror movie that honestly means the most to me is one of the campiest, goofiest 80s horror movies, Basket Case. And it's because I rented Basket Case so much as a kid, because the cover art was a guy, it was a basket barely opened up with a little claw hand sticking out in an eye. You had no idea what it was. And full of practical effects and stop motion, and that movie has always meant the most to me. That, Motel Hell, and Blood Diner, for some reason, those were the ones I rented all the time.
Right. Well, that's also, it's an art, doing films and things like that. And just like music or anything else, people try to pick your top 5, but that's like a never-ending, changing thing. Like, it cycles out. So I definitely feel you on that.
So how did you guys all meet? Like, how
Yeah,
did you get together and be like, hey, I want to work with Scott, or Scott wants to work with these guys? How'd you guys
we
get
reached
together?
out to them to come on to the podcast. And like I
Right.
said, once we met in person that first time, we just realized how much we had in common as far as, one, with being horror fans and everything.
Right.
And what we wanted to grow. We all wanted to grow the same thing. And in our world, unfortunately, not all con runners feel this way, but in our world, there's no such thing as competition. We can help each other grow. There's a huge
That's a
market,
beautiful
man.
thing.
A community.
You got Dallas, you got Houston. We respect Lloyd so much. We will never do a con where we cut him off in any way, because he's been in business for a long time. And,
Right.
and what's amazing about horror conventions, and Texas Frightmare in particular, the first time I went, one, you're walking around this room and there's people in black t-shirts and there's blood and there's horror and there's just all this scary stuff around. But you see all these people walking around and they've got little heart bubbles above their head and they're smiling. And it's like they're meeting, their heroes from when they were young.
Right.
When I met Adrienne Barbeau the first time, that was like one of my first crushes from the Swamp Thing movie back in the day. And she would be considered a scream queen for the most part, because she's done a lot of horror and she's actually doing a lot of independent horror now.
Scream queen. Okay, that's a new term for me.
Yeah, there's several Scream Queens that I know of. We've got a few that's going to be coming to the show June
right.
25th. They're just people that have found their place in horror, that have gotten a reception from horror fans that you can't get it with any other genre. And I'm not saying that the horror fandom isn't toxic, but it's not nearly as toxic as a lot of other fandoms that I've been involved with. Because working for Comic Palooza, and
comics in general, man.
I grew up a nerd. I was into Star Wars. I was into everything, and just seeing how some of those fan bases, the gatekeeping that happens with some of these fan bases now, it's depressing sometimes. I used to run the Twitter accounts for Scary Dad and for Houston Horror Film Festival and do all that stuff, and I can't stand Twitter anymore, because that is like,
Twitter is a toxic platform in general.
I think all social media is like pretty toxic in its own way.
Twitter takes it to another level.
Yes,
man.
it does.
So how did you guys all come together on this? Specifically, you said that some of you met through the podcast.
Yeah.
How do you guys divide the work and labor?
Troy is the original founder, and his original vision was to bring a film festival to Houston. So he's a director. He's an award-winning director. He has several great films. One of them, highly recommend you watch Stirring, which is on Amazon Prime. It's his favorite horror movie of all time is Black Christmas, the original from 1973, I think it was. And so Stirring is kind of his homage to Black Christmas.
Right.
It's a great film. He has another one that recently came out called Teacher Shortage, which is a interesting spin. You know the movie The Faculty? Mm-hmm. This one's kind of a reverse of that, where it's the teachers that are in trouble, and it's the students that are coming after them. So it's a pretty good movie. Troy had this vision of, just from his love of independent film, he wanted something in Houston to celebrate that, because the Houston film community is huge. I know so many directors in Houston that make horror and action and a few other things. My son just recently started acting in some independent films around here.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
And we wanted to just bring everybody together. Mm-hmm. So Tony is more on the side of, Tony knows the agents, he knows the celebrities, and he said, well, I'll work on this convention side of it. Okay. I'll work on booking guests, I'll put together some incredible people to put together, just the photo ops that he comes up with to do for these shows.
So he does marketing and stuff as well?
Yeah, he does. All our graphic design, everything is done 100% by Tony.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's hard.
It's funny because we start seeing where other horror conventions around the country, they've let him know beforehand, but you'll see them come out with posters that are identical to the ones that we're putting out.
Yeah.
Same design, same concept.
So you guys are cutting edge in this.
Yeah, just with the horror pop-up markets that we started last year during COVID. We did our first one, and then we had a con runner reach out to us and say, hey, I kind of want to do the same thing up here. Can you guys lead me a little bit?
Yeah.
So we let him know how to do it.
That's beautiful.
Next thing I know, every time I turned around in Pennsylvania, in Jersey, all these places, all of a sudden, horror pop-up markets were coming up. The exact same name as ours.
Yeah.
And we didn't take offense to it. Like I said, we're not in
that's
competition.
Inspiration, right?
So that's Tony's side, and my side was I've been working with conventions for a while now, and I've been running the Scary Dad show with Billy Stewart, my co-host for my Scary Dad podcast.
Let's do it.
And I said, hey, I'll take care of vendors, layout. I take care of press. There's a few things that I do just to take the load off of them.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of how we divide it up.
Gotcha.
And it's been working out great so far.
So you guys seem like you're expanding each year. For this
Every
short amount of
show.
time,
Every show
that
we
you guys have done. What are things that you take into consideration to improve it for the next time?
Okay, for the next time, definitely one of the things that we're going to improve on is You know, I've done Texas Frightmare Weekend, which they probably do about 5,000 to 7,000 people at a time, and they have their film festival in there. And I've been to their film festival. It runs at night. They have a nice sized room for it and stuff. Next event that we do for next year, we're going to put a lot more emphasis on the film festival aspect of it, because I never realized just how huge that was going to blow up. And that blew up a lot. I mean, we have some of the best independent films that got submitted to our thing. And because we originally started planning this one during COVID, we were planning to do very limited screenings because we couldn't put a lot of people in the room. And unfortunately, once we had everything set in stone and set up the way we were going to do it, we didn't have time to increase that capacity.
Right.
So we're going to have a line of people waiting to see movies and everything. So that's one thing that we want to look for, is make sure we have a large enough auditorium. I'm honestly looking at a place that holds 1,000 people just for the auditorium side.
Curiosity, have you thought about like movie theaters or anything like that for that?
I have, but
work?
the other side of it is the operations part of it with vendors and guests. And that's one of the things that happened this time is, you know, we originally planned the smaller con. We had our vendors had paid in 2019, and over 2020 we built this huge following and everything, including a lot of vendors that we love. Our vendors, we hope that they love us too.
Right.
And we honestly, by the time we started planning the new show, unfortunately the vendor spots had already almost sold out from 2019. So we have to have a much larger capacity for vendors.
Gotcha.
I mean, the next show I'm hoping to get at least 120 vendors in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, y'all need like a ballroom.
We're right at 50 right now. So, and just the waiting list is ridiculous, and I did everything I could to fit as many. It's so funny. We're taking over that entire first floor of that hotel. I mean, we're everywhere. We're in the lobby, the normal Marriott VIP lounge. We're in that. The rooms upstairs, we're taking over those. It's crazy.
Nice.
We're putting a tent in the parking lot. It's going to be air conditioned, but we're going to have a tent in the parking lot for a little VIP party on the Friday night. It's been a beautiful thing so far. I mean, just the reception we've had from people has been amazing. One of our vendors is out here right now, and it's so funny. It's this married couple with pop soap, and they saw me and they ran over, started hugging me. They're like, "We can't wait till next week!" And so I started telling them about a couple other events that we have coming up that we're planning. They were like, "Just pencil us in. We'll do wherever you guys go. We're going to be there." So it's a good feeling whenever they start coming to us like that.
You got a little family building up.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we call it. Just like our volunteer corps, our we're all family, and we're all in it for the same reason, and we have a blast doing it.
Love, right?
Well, I guess wrapping up the show, sir. I mean, a lot of good things, a lot of awesome knowledge. Thank you so much for coming down. But before you go, please give the audience what information they need, and how. I know by the time they see this, Texas Horror Film Festival will be already done, because it's next week, right? From this date, Juneteenth, it's next Saturday or next weekend. Yeah.
So one thing is definitely follow us on social media. We're very, very active on social media with the official Houston Horror Film Festival page, the Houston Horror Film Festival official group, and also the Scary Dad's Haunted Farm. Those 3 Facebook groups are where you get all the information. Some of the stuff we got coming up, definite. We have things in the works, but the definite stuff we have coming up is in September, Craig Watt, who's one of the local Houston haunters, and he's incredibly dedicated. I mean, this guy is, he lives Halloween every day.
Houston Haunter? So is that like...
No, well, yeah, there's actually a group called Houston Haunters Association, which are people that they go above it. They go above and beyond when it comes to Halloween. I mean, I got friends. I had one friend of mine. He had a house next door to his that he bought. Trace, so that he could start making his own free haunt in his neighborhood.
House stuff. Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So
all your haunted houses just open in October.
With this haunted house, it's Craig's opening up a haunted house called Terror Isle in Texas City, and we're going to do an event with him in September. I think it's September 17th, but you can follow the pages and you'll get information there. The other definite event we have, which we're so excited about, man, the brewery event went so well. We were like, okay, once it cools down, let's start looking for somewhere we can do another one. So Ari Lemon, I ran into Ari at a show recently. Me and him were shooting shit. And Ari Lemon is the first Jason. He actually, Friday the 13th Part 1, he's the Jason that comes jumping out of the water and grabs a kid. So I ran into Ari and we were shooting shit, and he said, "Hey, how'd that brewery thing go?" I said, "Dude, it was phenomenal, man. 1,000 people showed up, this and that." He says, "Well, look, I'm playing a concert at Wildcatters in Katy October 30th, because he has a band called First Jason. It's an awesome band. He plays a machete guitar. I mean, it's awesome." So he said, He said, why don't you call Wildcatters? I'll call them and say I sent you. Tell them that you want to do the same one-day market during the day, and then we'll close it out with the concert. He says, I'll already be there. And then he leans over and he goes, and just so you know, they haven't announced it yet, but Doyle from the Misfits is going to be headlining the show.
Whoa.
So I was like, I'll give them a call tomorrow. So I went ahead and I visited with Justin Whitfield over at Wildcatters and Katie, and we started talking about the show, and he is so excited to have this event. He's big on Halloween. He loves the show. He loves the performance. We're going to have a really, really good time. It's going to be a huge celebration of Halloween. We'll have vendors there, activities for the kids during the day, of course, costume contest. We got some other surprises. We haven't announced the rest of the guests yet, but we'll have about 4 or 5 additional celebrities there signing autographs.
Nice.
And,
Awesome.
and of course, closing with a concert with first Jason and Doyle, which is going to just be
That's
killer, man.
wild. Yeah.
So we got that. We got some other stuff that we're kind of planning right now. I'm thinking about doing a smaller event August 13th, which is Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Be a more intimate affair, dinner and a screening with a couple of celebrity guests from
That's
the
super
franchise.
Cool. Y'all doing some innovative stuff.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do,
Yeah.
honestly. We're trying to just kind of change the way we do things. And we've been, because we're all around nerds, we've been looking at other fandoms to possibly jump into and see
Right.
what we could do with those too. But for right now, just we're such huge horror nerds and everything. It just comes natural.
Yeah.
Well, sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Comic Cave Podcast and joining us at the Super Happy Incredible Toys toy show. We thank you so much, and next time we'll see you is definitely on the. You'll be with us at Comic Palooza.
Yes, yeah, I'll be at Comic Palooza for that, and plus I'll be working a little bit. So
Little known fact, the Comic Cave Podcast will be at the Houston Comic Palooza doing interviews with business store owners and festival goers as well, and event makers as well. And Russell will be there too, right, Russell?
Hey, man, I'm going to be there. We're going to be talking about how to turn your passion and put that... I was about to swear. I'm sorry. Put it into motion. We're very excited for that and very excited to be here and all the stuff that's going on. Definitely check him out and stay involved.
Well, thank you guys so much. And once again, well, how do you end this video, Russell? Because, I mean, it's a beautiful festival going on behind us.
We got lots more coming up, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned and peace until next time.
keep it scary.